Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at BellisioFoods.com/careers.
Good morning, everyone. Also, the lights aren't on, Hayden. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the morning show right here on Main Street TV, where it is a lovely, somewhat balmy Friday here in Southern Ohio.
Okay, and you say that with a smile on your face? That's because there's AC in here.
That is true.
Okay.
There wasn't the other day, but there is now.
That's right. We appreciate that.
Thank you guys for getting on it so quickly.
Right, absolutely.
Yes, it was a little balmy in here when the air went out, but we got it, and it's all fixed, and all's good with the world. It is Friday. It is going to be, this is the, second day of summer.
It is. It was
And boy,
actually.
is it ever.
They say that summer came a day earlier than it usually did on the 20th. You know, something to do with the way the moon and the stars go. But
Yesterday.
the longest day of the year was yesterday.
Yes, summer
Daylight year.
solstice and the longest day of the year. So here we are, and it is, I think today is the hottest day of the year. So two major accomplishments in one.
Right, and we're alive to experience it. Aren't we lucky?
Yay.
Right. Okay.
So here's the thing. Be very, very careful out there, and don't be outside overexerting yourself, because bad things are going to happen.
No, that's right. As a matter of fact, on our website, thetelegrammnews.com, not something that would probably make the print edition because of space, but we do have it on our website as a helpful type thing. There is recommendations, advisories from the Ohio Department of Health on how to cope with the heat. You know, you think, oh, it's just hot, you'll deal with it. You know, you kind of prepare for that just like you do the severe cold when you have to be out there. As a matter of fact, I understand that there are more heat-related deaths than cold-related deaths that happen in this world.
I could see that.
Yeah, so sometimes, you know, you just don't prepare yourself for that.
You know what this is so childish of me, but so you can buy, like, literally, you know, I was talking with someone this morning. We were talking about, like, when we were kids, you know, playing with the water hose and all that. And I know some municipalities will kind of like open up fire hydrants and like put like a sprinkler thing on them or whatever. But you can buy like now on Amazon or, you know, one of the box stores or whatever for like 10 or 13 bucks, like your own little splash pad or whatever. So I was like, well, I'm going to order one of those for, and then the doggies can play in it too.
Oh yeah. The doggies really like that.
Yeah. So, it'll be fun. It's supposed to be here tomorrow. So I'll report back on the splash pad, see how it goes. But you just hook it up to the water hose. It's just a few dollars, and, you know, you don't have to turn it up sky high or anything.
Right. Sometimes you just have to revert to your kid, to your kiddom to cope with things.
Like chase each other around with the water hose. It's funny. Turn on the sprinkler. Run through it.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
Okay. Well, I do want to tell you, as we get to the news, one of the stories that's going to be in our Saturday edition, Jennifer, is that there is $4.2 billion. I said billion with a B, coming from the Ohio Senate in capital funds. Now, not all that money was awarded by the Senate. The House has to agree to it too, but I understand they are in sync, and this money, which has not been finalized yet, is pretty secure. You can count on it. Some of our local folks who are receiving the funding were hesitant to talk, wondering if it's really going to come through.
Okay.
But I was given some assurances that, you know, the House, the Senate, and the governor are all in lockstep on this. You know, there was some collaboration ahead of time.
You said with a B?
With a B, that's $4.2 billion statewide, but this is the state, not the federal. We're used to the federal government with all the money and like that.
Yeah.
But this is coming from the state, from their state capital budget, and another funding source too, where they gave away money for a special one-time program, and they just kind of put it all together in this announcement. But this capital budget has probably over $10 million. That's million with an M for our local counties, Jackson and Vinton.
What?
Yes, that's right. I'm about ready to go down all these folks that are going to get money here, and this
Whoa.
just blows you away that there's this much money. But I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, we'll take it.
Okay. Well, the number one or most money going to any single project is for the Jackson City Memorial Building project, $2.5 million. Now,
Okay.
I will preface, as I give you these figures, I'll preface by saying that some of this is, it's not only new money, but it's projects we haven't heard about before, and we don't know exactly what they're going to do specifically with this money. There may be more money that's needed. There may be something that's not announced. Maybe even some of the entities that are receiving the money haven't made their plans, or it's a surprise to them or whatever. But the Jackson City Memorial Building, we got $2.5 million, and what Mayor Randy Evans has talked about before, and he knows it will take mostly outside money to do, is a basic redo of the Memorial Building, not tearing it down and starting all over, but basically almost a complete rebuild of the Memorial
It's in
Building.
bad shape and not accessible.
It was built in 1936. They called it, the word that they used was rehabilitation, whatever
Okay.
that means. But we're talking about, utilities. We're talking a major rebuild. Superstructure may stay there. And they already received over $1 million from the Ohio House. The Ohio House announced its capital funding a little earlier.
Okay.
And the Senate also has some money too, even though it has to be approved by both chambers and then signed off on by the governor. But I believe that the Memorial Building is looking at something like $4 to $5 million to do what they want to do, and so this is a good amount of money between the two. All right, the second big project after the Memorial Building is for a building in Wellston. Guess which one that we've always talked about?
The Louis Theater.
The Louis Theater project, $1.5 million.
It kind of needs a roof.
Right. Well, okay. You've been in projects before in business where you build. So, what would it take to put a roof on a building like that? Would you think
Oh,
$500,000?
that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Right. Well, this is
I
one.
mean, $1.5 million to redo the Louis to me seems like not a lot of money.
Well, there was a recent Wellston City Council meeting where Mayor Anthony Brenner, said that, hey, we weren't able to get Appalachian Program Grant money for the Louis. Are we going to give up on the Louis? Because, we've kind of held it out there.
Sure.
It's an empty shell in our downtown. Are we going to tear it down, or what are we going to do with that building? Are we going to try to go forward with it? I think he was leaning towards questioning whether it's worth going on because the clock was ticking, and they were saying maybe a year to see whether we can get some money, and that period had come. But those on Wellston City Council said, well, let's keep trying to get some money. Let's not stop now.
Love
and
that.
so now this $1.5 million comes. Mayor Brenner did not want to comment specifically on what they might do with this $1.5 million. It might be the roof. That's certainly a basic need.
It kind of, buildings typically need roofs. Yes.
Right. So anyway, but the good news is $1.5 million for the Louis, and we know just like the Marquet was in Jackson, it's beautiful now. The Louis is looked upon similarly in Wellston. It's kind of like you got a problem there. You know that it's way far gone, but do you want to just totally give up on it for the heritage, the culture, the history, all that, and then also the fact it's in the heart of the downtown, and if somehow you can bring it back for a new use, it's going to be a boon rather than an eyesore.
Yeah, and I like what their idea was. It's just my opinion of, making it kind of a community center, something that the public can use, and I think that's wonderful.
Right.
If listen, again, if we don't get this grant money, somebody else is going to. It's going to get allotted to somewhere. So.
Well, this is capital funds
or whatever money.
Yeah.
It is.
It comes every 2 years, but I mean, it really. My memory,
great.
it's more money than they've had before. Put it that way,
Sure.
A lot. All right, the City of Jackson Park and Trail Revitalization Project, $1 million.
Sweet.
$1 million. I know from attending Jackson City Council meetings, one of the things that the administration of Mayor Randy Evans is committed to, and they want to do it through grant money as much as possible, is improve the parks, some flood mitigation,
Yes,
because
big
unfortunately our parks are in
Yep.
flood-prone areas in the floodplain, and it's hard to have a park when some of the time when you have a bad storm or sustained rains.
When it's a lake.
Yeah, it's a lake. It's a lake. The Eddie Jones Marina. That's an old
Yeah.
joke in town. It can
Makes
turn
the
into
ducks
that.
or the geese happy, but
Right. They did a project in Manpower Park, and it does not flood nearly as easily as it did. We
Right.
have to say that. But Eddie Jones Park over there on Harding Avenue, that's a problem. There's also trails over there that are very nice if they're not flooded and it's muddy.
Right.
Because of the rain and
Which is-
because of the terrain and the floodplain and all.
Yep.
So this is $1 million to fix things, make them better, and maybe expand things.
Good.
And they already have some money that was already committed for this, and I know that they thought, hey, we're going to need more. Well, here is more. So we'll see
okay.
what they want to do with this. They'll probably have to figure it out with some feasibility and like that, some engineering and like that, but it's a start.
Sure.
It is a big start. Jackson County Courthouse building and grounds renovation, $600,000.
Okay.
I know that one of the things they're talking about is doing some work on the outside. You know where the James A. Rhodes Memorial is?
Yes.
They're doing some rehab on the plaques that got damaged a little bit with mildew and like that. I know that a thought was to move that to the other side of the courthouse
Okay.
in a different area.
They're moving James Rhodes.
They may be doing that.
Oh,
Now,
my goodness.
This was preliminary. When we asked, where those plaques were, something going on there, it was basically a repair job.
Okay.
Because of the chemicals in the stone was damaging the plaques. So they were going to fix the plaques and they were going to put it back up. And the thought was if they could get some money, and I suppose this might be that money that they were thinking
Sure.
of 2 or 3 months ago, they're going to do some other work at the courthouse as well as move that memorial and put it in what they feel is a better place. So we'll see what happens there. But the courthouse, of course, was built back in the mid to late 50s after the great courthouse fire of 1951. And, we're talking about a building that's 75 years old. So, I'm sure that there's lots that they could do with that money to improve things. I think they replaced the roof 10 years ago or something.
Okay.
So I'm not sure, what we're talking about there, but $600,000 is nice. I know the commissioners over the years, when money was tighter, had always tried to put money aside into capital improvements, and it was never enough, or they had to raid the capital improvements just to keep operations going.
Yes.
So this will be a big step forward for the courthouse. Also, this is a private sector thing, and we'll have to congratulate Connie Pelletier, who runs My Brother's Place over in
Yes.
Wellston, the food pantry and clothing place. She is receiving, or their organization is receiving, $200,000 for what is called the Wellston Food Pantry Turnkey Renovation Project.
Wow. That's awesome.
$200,000. Of course, they are in a building in downtown Wellston, an older building, and they will use this money, I'm sure, to make improvements to an older building there. I know when she took it over a little bit more than a year ago, she thought there needed to be some rehab, renovation, cosmetic improvements there, as well as, obviously trying to continue to serve the public, especially those in need.
Yeah, it is because it's a community thing. So, okay, Jeremiah's here.
Hi,
And he
Pete.
grabbed a microphone.
Pete and Jen, I'm just out of the shot. You guys are talking about the grant funding. I just wanted to give you a quick update on the Wellston stuff as of last night, Pete.
okay.
You wouldn't have known this.
Yes, Jeremiah was at a council meeting last night,
Okay.
so this is right off the griddle.
Right off
Beep, beep.
the beat there, yeah. So you was talking about the Louis. Mayor Brenner did address that last night in his report. He said that they announced the $1.5 million, and he said that they had plans to take that money and hopefully be able to put a roof on the Louis, doors, windows, and hopefully do some work to the marquee, is what he told council last night. So just wanted to kind of give that as a little update.
Okay,
Great.
we predicted the roof, didn't we?
Did.
That's kind of
We know what
basic.
we're doing.
That's
Yeah,
kind of
just-
basic.
Just wanted to share. Just wanted to
Okay.
share
Thank
that.
you.
Yep.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, that's the idea of news. That's new information. So
That's
thank you,
right.
Jeremiah. All right, going on down the list. There's more.
Okay.
Okay, this is to the University of Rio Grande, but it involves Jackson County. The Jackson Center Acquisition and Renovation is what they call it.
Okay.
$177,876. Now that's going to need.
Wait, that's kind of specific.
I know that one is not. It's not rounded off, but that is the figure that was given in the
Okay.
in the list that I accessed on the capital funds. $177,876, and of course the Jackson Center is located there on Main Street, there in that strip where there's Tri-City Theater and so forth, and acquisition and renovation. I can understand the renovation. We can guess that they're going to work on the building, but acquisition, I'm not exactly sure what that is. So we'll just have to see.
Okay.
I put in our story that's going to be in the Saturday paper. It will be online today. That the Telegram will be following up to get more specific details.
This is fun
as
to
they come
kind of
out.
dig in there and find out what people are going to do with this money.
All right, the Wellston Fire Department Training Academy will receive $175,000. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know a whole lot about because it's behind the scenes. But the Wellston Fire Department, which is the only full-time fire department in Jackson County, and certainly reputedly one of the top city fire departments in our area, they do a fire training academy.
They do.
That
Train
serves not just
firefighters.
local firefighters, but from the area and beyond
Yep.
even, because even though a lot of our local firefighters are volunteers, God bless them, you still have to have professional training before you can become a firefighter.
Yes.
And so, $175,000 to support the training academy in some way, and we'll get an explanation on that as well from Fire Chief Ryan Pelletier.
Cool.
All right. Here's another one where there's a bunch of question marks after I say it, but this is what's on the list. Wellston Sports Complex, $100,000.
Okay.
Now I am guessing that this is the recreational complex over on State Route 327, where they put so much money in from ODNR to improve things over there,
Yes.
lighting on the field, trails that go all the way to the high school campus that is nearby, a new soccer field, expansion of parking, and the thing that they wanted to get from the Appalachian Program grant funding that they did not get. They wanted money to develop an RV park over there.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering if that's what they're going to do with this. So
Right,
That's the plan.
and even though they knew early that they were not going to get money for it, they talked about a swimming pool out there.
Yeah.
And they see this as kind of like a big grand picture, not only for local people, but to promote tourism and
Correct.
visitors.
Yeah.
Because they have this great sports complex, all these great ball fields. They have these tournaments. People come in to the
They-
tournaments. They'll have
they
a
do.
place to stay over the weekend. They'll go eat in the restaurants in
Yep.
town. So they see it as a economic development thing as well as
For
a quality
sure.
of life thing there at the Wellston. So $100,000, and we'll have to listen to Mayor Brenner or talk to Mayor Brenner about how they're going to spend that money.
Okay.
But I'm guessing that it's over there in that recreational
I would say
complex,
so.
which they have developed and are continuing to develop.
That's cool.
All right, and the other one is kind of like recreation too, and it's a little bit more defined. We can guess what it might be. On South New York Avenue in Wellston, they have a ball field there that's been there for years. It's a neighborhood ball field. It's called Blamer Park, and Wellston has received $92,038 for what is called Wellston Blamer Park renovation. I know that recently Wellston City Council, Jeremiah reported from a recent council meeting that they have bought some land that was available near Blamer Park. So I think that they're expanding their grounds there a little bit, maybe parking or maybe recreational facilities, whatever. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that they are in the process of getting more land. They have done some improvements down there already, and now they're getting, for what is described as renovation, that's the key word, $92,000 more in state capital funds.
Nice.
I don't know when the money will actually flow, but it will be in the capital budget. The Senate will approve it because, the top people of the Senate put this list together, so it's not going to have any trouble there. The people from the House, did their own did their own projects, and they collaborated. So they kind of spread the money out. They didn't double anything up, and made the money go as far as possible. And so all that's left is for the governor to sign. So
Yep.
I mean, it will probably happen, and I know the goal is that for the budget to be in place by the end of June. So that's coming
Okay.
up pretty soon.
Good.
All right.
This is great news.
In Vinton County, there's 3 projects that are being funded. The big one, $275,000 to the Vinton County Park District.
Mm-hmm.
The Park District, has several different facilities. They have that land that used to be a brick plant just south of MacArthur that they want to develop. It's going to be kind of like a recreational area, some trails and like that.
Yeah.
That is kind of in its infancy there, and that $275,000 will certainly help them get started. It may have to go for planning and engineering. You just don't sneeze at that. That's a lot of
No,
money too.
It is.
But I'm
lot.
sure it's very welcome money too, because I know the Park District, especially at the first, is going to depend on outside funding,
Sure.
be it grants or capital funds or whatever. Okay, $100,000 for the Hotel MacArthur.
Okay.
I know Red Thompson's been on TV before talking about that, but that is the old building that goes back, as far as Vinton County itself goes back there, right on the corner in downtown where the traffic light is, across from the courthouse. It is already, there's some renovations have already been made. The Vinton County CVB has its office in there. Amanda Boring, the new
Yep.
marketing director who has such big plans, is already initiating them. They will need money to make more improvements. There is Amanda right there.
Yep.
They will need money to make more improvements down there in the Hotel MacArthur. It's going to take a lot of money, but the idea is to put a restaurant there, to hire somebody to run an inn there with some wonderful rooms. Not a lot of rooms, but rooms where people would want to come into MacArthur and stay.
Absolutely, yeah.
And and while maintaining the heritage and the history of the building as well, because it certainly has that. So $100,000 for the Hotel MacArthur, and then the Wilkesville Township is getting $35,000 for an outdoor warning siren. Some of the small towns have tornado sirens, and there's been more talk about that lately because of the weather.
Well, yeah, because we keep having tornadoes.
Right,
Yes.
and I do remember that Wilkesville has had a siren, but they've had operational and technical problems with it.
Okay.
So I presume that this $35,000 will replace that siren or fix it, one or the other. So they have that.
So I have a question for you, Pete.
Yes.
This is one of those where you go, huh? I was in Columbus the other day, and I went to Capitol in Bexley, but Columbus every Wednesday at noon, they test their tornado siren.
Okay.
So it just got to be, you just get used to it. You're like, oh, well, it's Wednesday at noon. They're testing the tornado siren. So I was talking with a friend the other day as we were up in Columbus and we were sitting there and the tornado siren went off. And she said, what happens if there's a tornado at noon on Wednesday?
That's a good question.
I said, I never thought of that.
It could happen. It could happen.
Because, everyone's like, oh, it's just the tornado siren test every Wednesday at noon. What if there's an actual tornado? We'd all just go, well, they're just testing the tornado siren.
Okay, well, I'm guessing that there's some other alert that they do, Nixle or HyperReach or whatever.
But she posed that question. I was like, Anywho,
It could happen.
yeah,
It could happen.
moving on.
All right. Well, speaking of Columbus, we've got a story out of Columbus that has local connections that I think our local readers will really be interested in. This will be on the front page. That's what I'm saying right now, anyway.
Okay.
But there is a former Oak Hill resident that has made, the Dispatch and some of the TV stations made big news up there.
Oh,
A young man by the name of Devin Blair, age 23. His address most recently was Latham, but he is accused of murder in
Oh.
a grisly domestic violence-related murder up there. Now, there are multiple murders that take place in the big cities, unfortunately,
Sure.
because of numbers, as much as anything else. But this one, made the news. Well, Mr. Blair who is charged with a felony level charge of murder as well as 4 misdemeanor counts of domestic violence, lived in Oak Hill for a number of years.
Oh,
Not all that long ago. As recently as 2021, he was charged with domestic violence in Jackson County and in Oak Hill.
Oh.
And he is accused of killing a young woman by the name of, let me see, get her name here. He is charged with killing 19-year-old Brooke DeVinny. Reportedly, DeVinny was pregnant at the time of her death.
my.
Allegedly, she was killed in a domestic violence incident. Anyway, when officers arrived, and this was 7:45 a.m. last Sunday, by the way, when officers arrived there on the West Side residence, they saw a man running away on foot, but were not able to take him into custody. They found that DeVinny, who was suffering from very significant physical injuries from an assault, died shortly later.
Oh my gosh.
He was pronounced dead at the hospital the next morning, as a matter of fact. But anyway, he had been arrested already for outstanding warrants for domestic violence, and then this incident happened on top of this. But when he lived in Oak Hill, he had multiple incidents of domestic violence and also some traffic-related citations before that, obstruction of official business in there
my.
as well, and I believe a couple drug-related offenses as well. So there's a lot of folks, excuse me, in Jackson County, and particularly in the Oak Hill area, where that name may mean something. But we'll have a story that will not only report what happened in Columbus, but the local connections as well.
Oh my goodness.
All right, do you remember the shooting incident that occurred not all that long ago? It was in May at the corner of High Street and Wood Avenue,
I do.
where there were 2 vehicles, bunch of people in both vehicles, and there was an altercation that went on. It turned out it was over money. Somebody owed somebody money, but what happened there that made this argument noteworthy and made our front page a little more than a month ago
Right.
was that somebody took out a handgun and shot at the other guy.
Sure.
Now, those shots hit the car. They did not hit anybody, thankfully.
Thank goodness.
But both of the cars fled the scene, but they knew that there were multiple occupants in there. The police used interviews and surveillance video to figure out who was in the vehicles, and they were able to basically solve the case within 2 or 3 days. It was, I think, pretty good work by our Jackson Police
Oh, yeah.
Department. But the man who was accused of firing the shots is Vincent D. Best, age 24. He has a Minford address, and he was indicted just last week by the Jackson County Grand Jury. We should have his picture there, Hayden. He was indicted on June the 17th, and he is facing a 3rd-degree felony of discharge of a firearm or near prohibited premises. That's a mouthful. And a 4th-degree felony of improperly handling firearms in a motor vehicle. Each charge has a firearm specification, which makes it a more serious crime because there's a firearm involved on top of it.
Okay.
And of course, it's automatically illegal to fire a gun in the city, if you didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's
probably.
it. That's even if you're shooting at an animal or a deer or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, he has been indicted, and that case will move forward in common pleas court. But we wanted to report on that, that the justice system is moving forward on that one.
Okay.
All right, a couple of issues that came out at a recent Benton County Commissioners meeting. Red Thompson Jr. was on hand for this, and in Benton County, the commissioners have applied for a $430,600 community development block grant to help the village of Hampden make repairs to its wastewater treatment plant.
Oh.
I know there's been some issues with the sewer plant there, even though they have a fairly modern system in Hampden. It hasn't been all that long ago since they did a revamp, but they have had some operational problems. And so this grant will hopefully make repairs to the sewer plant and things will work better.
Okay.
So that is an application, but they hope to get the money. All right. The other discussion, we talked not all that long ago about Jackson County receiving $1.5 million for more than that, $10.5 million for a regional jail.
Yes.
I mean, it's gonna take a while for all that to happen because they got to do a feasibility study.
Right.
But as we know, that will be a big step forward for Jackson County and
Yes.
maybe surrounding counties that will use the regional jail or maybe partners in the regional jail. The jail space issue came up at this Vinton County Commissioners meeting, the same one where, they talked about the sewer plant.
Right.
But anyway, there at that meeting, they had a resident there named Cindy Taylor, and she was concerned about the jail space issue because Vinton County actually is a partner in the Southeast Ohio Regional Jail at Nelsonville. Now, that's not all that far away. And when they built it, it seemed like it was plenty big enough. But there's multiple counties involved, and by the time that Vinton County uses the beds that it has in the Southeast Regional Jail, they're doing the same thing that's already happening in Jackson County. They're traveling somewhere. And deputies are being paid to be chauffeurs, basically,
Yes.
taking inmates out of county. The county is paying extra to house those inmates in an out-of-county jail.
Plus gas, plus all kind of
And
stuff.
they're not doing law enforcement work in the county at the same time, or an extra person is working because they have to do the chauffeuring. I'm
Right.
not exactly sure how that works out, but the bottom line is it's not efficient and it costs a lot of money. So there was a discussion. This Cindy Taylor was concerned, and she says, well, I see where Jackson County got money for regional jail. Why can't we get some money? Well, first of all, you have to get the money. It took Jackson County a long time to get it, and one of the reasons they got it was they were willing to do a regional jail where, more than just one county can be helped. The other thing is, once you get the jail, you have to have money to operate it.
Sure.
Costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
You have to have the staff. You have to have, these days, you have to have medical staff. If you have women in your incarceration, you need a whole different set of corrections officers and like that. That's one of the problems, of course, with the Jackson County Correctional Facility. It's all men. When they opened that jail back in 2000, they didn't think they had enough female prisoners to worry about.
Sure.
Well, I don't know what's in the water, but now
Stuff
females
happens.
get in trouble too, more than they did in 2000. And so
Yeah.
there was no real answers there, but Sheriff Ryan Kane and the commissioners both acknowledged that it is a problem and they're working on it. Now, Donnie Willis, who is the county commissioner down here in Jackson County, who spearheaded this effort to get
Yeah.
the big grant, and he used to be the jail administrator at the Jackson County Correctional Facility before he was a commissioner. He told me that Vinton County has a chance to be a partner or to at least buy jail space from Jackson County if it's available.
Correct.
And when they do the feasibility study, hopefully there'll be enough money there that they can make the jail as big as it needs to be. One of the preliminary numbers that Donnie Willis had, and this is pre-feasibility study, was 300 beds.
Okay.
By comparison, there are 40 beds now in the Jackson County Correctional Facility.
Okay.
So that's a couple of the issues that are being talked about there in Vinton County on the county side.
I mean, I like she asked the question. It's a fair question.
Right. Okay. Well, as you were aware, Jennifer, as a downtown businesswoman, you were aware that the city of Jackson is considering establishing a DORA, which is a designated outdoor refreshment area.
Yes.
Right. And Jackson right now is working behind the scenes on a map of where, the DORA areas might be. There can be more than one. Well, in Wellston, they started a little bit later, but they've even got legislation now
Yes.
that they have.
They're moving quick.
They have legislation that there was a first reading of it last night at the city council meeting
cool.
that Jeremiah covered, and they're looking at a DORA in the downtown area.
Sure.
You
And
know,
that's
they're-
what they're for.
Right. Anyway, that map, that graphic up there, I know it's maybe hard to tell on television, but in the paper when you see that, you will see the streets marked. But in that red area right there, that is where the DORA would be in Wellston, as proposed at least.
Okay.
In Jackson, it would certainly be in part of the downtown area, but there's also talk about having a DORA section farther out as well.
Yes.
And all that is possible. I think you can have up to 3.
Well, you do, but you have to have at least 2 liquor licenses within the that section,
Right.
or two or three.
Right. Well, a lot of
Anyway, it's
in Jackson, they did have a public meeting before a council meeting, and there wasn't really a lot of public members there. There were some of the restaurant owners and operators who
Yeah,
expressed
I was
support.
there.
Who expressed support for it. So I would expect legislation to be introduced at a Jackson City Council meeting, and this is all. It hasn't been approved yet. You know, the public will get a chance to weigh in. I'm sure they'll do their 3 readings and so forth, but. I know we'll talk about it later. I know you're very knowledgeable, but because you're a proponent. But would you explain basically what a DORA would do? Because until this year, I'd heard the phrase DORA, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so DORAs were started kind of in the big cities. For example, I think one of the first DORAs that were done was in the Arena District in Columbus, where Nationwide Arena is. And you have all of those, little restaurants and things like that people go to before they go to the arena. And it was like, let's make this one public area where if, for example, you're in the Funny Bone or whatever, and you purchase a drink there, then you can go outside. If they're having like a festival, or maybe they're having an art show or something, you could walk outside with your drink because it's within that area. And that's how they kind of got started. Well, then the governor or our legislature kind of was like, okay, well, this is working for the big areas. Let's add these to the small towns so that, like, for example, our First Thursdays that we have in downtown Jackson. Maybe you go to 6 Cents or the Corner Pub or whatever. You can get a beverage it's in a specific cup.
Designated cup.
Yes.
Right.
And
so you know that it's authorized.
Right. And we set boundaries. Well, we being the city, being the council, set boundaries of which that DORA, which is the designated outdoor refreshment area, is. And then you could walk around, say you're shopping, outside at the street festival or whatever, you can take that drink with you and have it and, have a drink while or if you're waiting outside, maybe you're waiting for a table at one of the downtown restaurants and, you're wanting to sit outside and wait. You could get a drink at the bar, you could go outside. Or one of my examples is, do you remember last year we had the pink party on Portsmouth?
Yes.
It was our fundraiser for breast cancer awareness and breast cancer patients. We had to go through all kind of hoops and whatever to get a liquor license so that street out front could be incorporated into our party. With this, it would just be okay to have it, and you wouldn't have to, put caution tape all around and do all the tacky things that you have to do now. So there's a lot of, it's basically not like to promote Mardi Gras in the street. It's just so that people can sit outside with a drink if they want while they're waiting on a table or looking at, all the different vendors at the street fair or something of that nature.
Right. And
in Wellston and all the other places do it. Chillicothe has one. Portsmouth has one. I think
Right.
Gallipolis is working on it.
And
everybody has
individual businesses within a DORA,
Yes.
if they didn't want somebody to bring alcohol in, there'd be some kind of mark.
Yeah, there's
marker
like a sign.
outside. Right. So, this is something that, that could work for everybody.
Sure.
And this is something that already, many people may not realize this, a lot of communities, even Southeastern Ohio, are DORA.
They're everywhere. They're just everywhere. In small communities, Jamie and I were up in Hilliard the other day, and they have literally taken one of their main crossroads streets in Hilliard and actually blocked off that block where there's a splash pad for the kids. There's a brewery and multiple restaurants right there. There's all of this stuff, and people can just be outside in that area, and it's cool. Parents could have a drink and watch their kids in the splash pad and socialize, and it's just that. It's Chillicothe. Jamie and I were there the other day. There were some men sitting outside on a bench having a beer, and their wives were all walking around shopping at the different downtown businesses, and they were just chatting it up on the, on the bench. So it's like that. That's what it's for.
Right. And so this is something we'll hear more about both in Wellston and Jackson
Sure.
here in the coming months. Everybody will get a chance to weigh in. And, here at the paper, we will try to do the best we can to explain it.
Sure.
Because it is a new concept for a lot of folks. But that is something that's coming here in both communities. Speaking of Jackson, we talked about this on Main Street TV before, but I did want to confirm that at the last council meeting, without much comment, as expected, Jackson City Council did vote unanimously to put the 1.5% city income tax back on the ballot in the November 5 election.
Okay.
Remember, it was passed in 2020, the first year of the Randy Evans administration, as a 5-year thing. It had a sunset clause in it. He wanted it that way because he wanted people to have a chance at the end of the term to see, is it worth it? Do you want to continue it? Well, of course, there's been a lot of infrastructure work, particularly street paving, maybe at the top of the list, that would not have taken place had it not been for the income tax revenue. And so they are actually putting it on a year early. It does not expire, the first income tax, 1.5% as well, does not expire to the end of 2025. But by putting it on a year ahead of time, two things. If somehow it would fail, and before it has failed until the last time,
Sure.
if it would fail, it gives them another year to try to get it passed again if they want to try again. Also, if they're not going to get it, they need to know that ahead of time when they work on these grants and the city budgets and all like that.
Right.
So Mayor Evans is hopeful that that the majority of residents will feel that the income tax, the 1.5% income tax, which goes for a lot of infrastructure improvements, street paving, sidewalks, and it also is the key to funding our police department
Yes.
as well now. So anyway, you'll get a chance to weigh in on that if you live in Jackson at the end of this year in the November 5 election. All right, a couple of things about events that are noteworthy. I think that in the Reds Roundup show that he's doing now, he was talking with marketing director Amanda Boring. We mentioned her before. Well, here's one of the big news that she's working on. The majority of events for Midnight at Moonville are moving to MacArthur.
Oh.
So I know
Okay.
that the tunnel, the famous tunnel, is still there. They can't move that, but the Moonville tunnel is a little remote.
is.
It's hard to get back to. There's limited space, of course. Facilities, utilities, and all like that. And so Amanda's idea, and this is going to be done. It's just not proposed. Many of the events will be in downtown MacArthur instead. There will still be limited activities, of course, at the tunnel.
Okay.
The reputedly haunted Moonville Railroad Tunnel. And this is, of course, in October, Halloween month. That's when you got to do it.
Well, of
But
course.
her idea is that this will be more space for activities. It's not all that far from Moonville, about 12 miles. You could go to both venues, as a
Sure.
matter of fact, and it will involve a lot more people and a lot more businesses that are sitting already there in MacArthur.
Okay.
So that is one of the big things that she talked about. Okay, do you remember when that doggone tornado came through Jackson on Memorial Day weekend?
How could we forget?
Of course, the weather wasn't very good at Oak Hill that Sunday afternoon either.
Right.
They ended up canceling the parade. They lost some their entertainment. They didn't have a car show the next day because the grounds where they were going to have it were so soaked that even though the sun was shining, they couldn't park all those classic cars over there.
Not good.
So, undeterred, the Festival of Flags Committee, and this is a small group that makes all this happen.
Yeah, a few people.
They have decided to have a follow-up makeup event, you might call it,
Okay.
on August the 17th. That is on a Saturday. And what they're going to do is they will have a car show from 12 to 4 p.m. on that day. There will be a few vendors and crafts set up as well. Then that evening, they're going to have the Red Brush Band and the Smokin' Ham Band perform. The Red Brush Band, of course, is local, very popular area in the area and the region. And the Smokin' Ham Band, which was very popular as a festival entertainment band, will be back to perform as well. And they are thinking about, if they can pull it off, they'll do a parade too. Maybe not as big as it would have been during the
would be
festival
cool.
because you have a lot of visiting queens and all like that. Or maybe they'll try to do the queens again too. But they would like to have a parade as well. And so that's going to be on August the 17th.
Like that. Thinking outside the box.
Right, exactly. All right, let's see, what else can we talk about? We want to give props to Tammy Osborne Smith, the director of the Jackson County Job and Family Services, and her staff. They had a very distinguished visitor not too long ago. His name is Matthew Damschroeder, and he is the director, the state director of the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services. And they had a visit on June the 7th, and he was visiting some of those offices all around this area, all the way from Lawrence County to Morgan County in about 2 or 3 days. He was doing the grand tour in southeastern Ohio. And when he came to Jackson County, which was on Friday, June the 7th, he was very impressed with the operation there. As a matter of fact, let me give you a quote that he said. He said, Governor Mike DeWine is very much a local government kind of governor and cares greatly about what's happening in each Ohio county. As state director of the Job and Family Services, it's important for me to move around the state and meet and talk with the folks that are actually delivering the services we provide to communities. Tammy and her team here at the Jackson County JFS do a tremendous job across all the spectrum of the many different services they provide: cash assistance, food assistance, child support, children's services, and much more. And I know, Jennifer, you've been around long enough and are connected enough to know, even though, unless you're maybe getting one of those services, you just don't realize how much gets done there.
You're right.
And this is a kind of like a connection, a networking thing between the state and the county. But every county has a Job and Family Services agency, or there is a regional one that serves a county. And here in Jackson County, we have one that serves just Jackson County. You have a lot of folks that work there. There in the JFS building at 35 South Street, I think it is. The Elections Board and Commissioners are in
Yes.
the back of that building.
Yep.
People may be more familiar with them. But the JFS, which is the biggest part of the building, they do a lot of different things.
Yes, they do.
So that was a big day for them. All right. We also want to tell you, have you ever seen a spongy moth?
What?
A spongy moth. I think if Hayden can find it, we have a picture to show you. There it is. The spongy moth. They used to call it the gypsy moth, but
Okay.
political correctness came in and they couldn't call it a gypsy moth anymore. So they call it a spongy moth. But in
It just
51,
looks like a moth.
it does. But it's not the moth that causes trouble. It's the caterpillar that was before it becomes a moth. But anyway, it is a tree killer.
Oh.
And it has caused problems in at least 51 counties in the state, including Vinton County.
Oh,
Jackson
my.
County is on the very edge. It is not considered what they call a quarantine county. But in the counties where there is a quarantine, they do some aerial spraying. And they did that in Vinton County last week in a very small section of Vinton County near Radcliffe. They've done it in other parts of Vinton County in past years, I remember. But they do low-flying plane, like a crop dusting plane.
Sure.
And here's what it does. You think, oh my gosh, what are they spraying? What kind of chemical are they spraying? It is a chemical, but it is not harmful to humans, birds, animals, or anything. And it doesn't even kill the moths. You know what it does? It makes them not want to have sex.
Okay.
So there's not as many.
we're not
as many
Making more moths.
Not as many new moths, right? So anyway, they did a spongy moth treatment near Radcliffe. So if you saw a low-flying plane last week, that's what was going on.
And if you see moths having sex, stop them.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
No, is that the reason why, like, if you go to a lot of campgrounds and stuff, you can't bring your own firewood? That they want you to buy, like, theirs? I think it has something to do with that. Like, you can't bring your own wood because they don't know where it came from and whether it has.
With some of the invasive species that cause problems, yeah, that is a problem on the importing of wood or whatever.
You wonder why campgrounds and things of that nature are super adamant about it. That's why.
Right, exactly. All right. remember the big news from the University of Rio Grande earlier this year. So exciting for them, and I'm sure that Ryan Smith talked about it when he was here.
did, yes.
They're going to have football.
Yes.
Not this coming year, but the next year,
Yep.
and then they're going to have a marching band.
Yep.
Can you imagine?
Oh my
how
gosh.
many local and area students that's going to give them another outlet? It's going to be a great
For
draw
sure.
for the college and the university. When students, high school students, make their decision on where they're going to go to school.
I think that is going to be huge. Yes.
But a big step was taken recently on the football program. They hired a coach. And we had a big story that was in the paper on that, and I believe he had a press conference earlier this week.
Okay.
His name is Quincy Wilson, and I tell you what, give the folks, the headhunters at the University of Rio Grande, a lot of credit, because Quincy Wilson has some credentials. First of all, he was an outstanding player at the University of West Virginia.
Yes.
An outstanding football player. He also has coaching experience at both the high school and college level.
Okay.
And you think he's going to come in and he has to build a program from the bottom, from the very base,
Yeah.
from the floor, from the ground floor. Well, I admire his spunk. He said right off the bat that he is going to have a winning team, a winning program, a competitive program. He
Yeah.
didn't promise so many wins, but he says, why can't we be competitive
So-
and win some games right from the very start?
Ryan Smith had told me
There
that.
is Quincy
There
Wilson,
he
by
is.
the way.
Yeah, Ryan said, I even told him, like, don't worry, first couple of years we don't, and he said, don't expect a lot, whatever. And Coach Wilson said, well, I do. Like, what are you talking
Well,
about?
that probably had
We're gonna
something.
win.
That probably had something to do with maybe getting hired. That kind
Maybe.
of confidence, and it rubs off on people. It rubs off on the support staff, the athletic administration, the top administration, the kids that are part of the program.
Well, God knows we have enough football talent around here, in our neck of the woods, that we should be able to
Right, and
excel right off the rip.
right, and sometimes I know this sounds like I'm being defensive for our area, but a lot of times the bigger schools tend to overlook the kids from
Absolutely.
small towns and rural
Sure.
areas, thinking they look closer to the cities and the larger schools and like that, and maybe some of our better athletes they feel
don't get a
overlooked.
chance.
They feel overlooked.
Yeah.
And so this will be a great opportunity for them as well
This
too.
is exciting stuff. It really is.
But he will be working, Quincy Wilson will be working very hard recruiting. He's got to recruit a coaching staff and all like that. That's a big deal because there's a lot, he needs experienced people working with him, the chemistry that goes on it, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be interesting to see from afar. And of course, we will stay on that story as well. All right. There was a signing at Jackson High School not too long ago, and this was for a cheerleader. Her name is Cameron Muncie, and Cameron is the only one who's not in green in that picture. She is second from the right, and she is going to be a cheerleader at Marshall University. So this is a
Awesome.
Division I school.
Yeah.
When we have a
This is
high school
great.
football player be able to go to a Division I school like Cade Wolford did,
yes.
like the young man from Vinton County who's going to Campbell University in North Carolina. It is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal to be asked to go and play football at the next level in college, no matter where you go. But Division I is tops.
Yes, it
And
is.
so remember Emily Jo Cooper. She was a softball player at Marshall University, and we had Alyssa Hammond, who played basketball at Oak
Yep.
Hill in the 90s and was very good. She was Marshall University, and now Cameron Muncie will be a cheerleader at Marshall University. And you just don't walk on and do that. You have to be picked.
Yes.
So congratulations to her. And that story, by the way, Todd Compton interviewed her. He covered the signing, and that story will be on our sports page on Saturday. So be sure to take a look at that. All right, as you know, Jennifer, you've been had all these kids around you, these excited high school and college students to be as total media interns this year.
Yes, we've had fun.
There's Hayden sitting over there. He's
Yes.
he's one of them. Well, we have a young man. One of those interns is Corbin Wilbur. And every now and then they actually do something for the Telegram, which we appreciate. We'll take all the help we can get.
Of course.
And last Saturday, he was so excited to do this, and he did a crackerjack job, I'll say that.
Way
he
to go,
covered
Corbin.
he covered the Appalachia Old Car Club Cruise-In.
Yes.
That was held at Trinity Chapel, and did they have a great day for that? Look at all those classic cars lined up there
So
in the
fun.
church parking lot. And he wrote a caption to go with that, as well as taking some pictures. And that will be in our Saturday paper as well.
Great.
And the reason that I allowed that, Corbin said he was going to buy 50 papers. So it's an economic development thing. I had to get that picture in the paper. But honestly, all jokes aside, he did a wonderful job. And we're so blessed to have all these young, enthusiastic interns here, not only learning, but actually doing.
But helping, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, a couple of things that are going on this weekend as we're running out of time. And these are just two of the things going on this weekend, but I'll mention these
It's
two.
the season.
The Wellston Fire Department is having a Jeep ride this Saturday, and it will support their Firefighters for Kids toy drive.
Okay.
So all these Christmas presents that they provide for needy families at Christmas, there are different organizations that do that. In Wellston, it's the fire department. And you have to be able, they do get a lot of donations going into where they have to buy these gifts, but you have to fundraise for it too. So here in June, this is a way that you can support that fund drive for the Firefighters Through Kids toy drive. This Jeep ride will be this Saturday. Registration will be at 1 p.m. right downtown at Scotty's on First Street, of course, on First Street in downtown Wellston. It should be a great day for a Jeep ride. It'll be a little warm, but not supposed to get any rain. That's important.
That's right.
But the Jeep ride will be, stop at these places: Bucks in Benton County, Doug's Vault, which I don't know where that is.
I don't know.
The Wilkesville American Legion, I know where that is. That's near Wilkesville. And then they'll go back to Scotty's on First. So I know that they're going to hit some back roads there a little bit. And I guess if you're in a Jeep, you could have some AC if you needed it, couldn't you?
Sure.
Right. Or you can have the top down.
That's right. Whatever you want to do.
Right. But anyway, the cost is only $20 per person. You have to be 21 years or older, and every dime will go to the Firefighters for Kids toy drive. And I'm sure since they're stopping and ending at Scotty's, a chance for food and refreshment as well.
Absolutely.
All right. The DM Davis Choirs. They wanted to be on TV this week, but they couldn't work out the schedule
Yeah,
there.
somehow our schedules got all messed up.
But so it's my duty to tell you today that they will have their summer concert this Saturday at the Marquee. It will be at 7 p.m. and the theme is Glory of Music. And
Okay.
so, there's going to be some traditional, historical, very popular music that will be part of that. Sometimes the summer one is patriotic. There may be some of that too. But the men's and women's choir do a great job. There's usually some numbers by the men's, some numbers by the women's, and of course combined as well. And this is one of the great deals. I mean, it's local people that you can support. They're talented, but it's only $5 if you buy a ticket in advance. And even if you walk up and decide at the last minute, I'm going, it's only $7.
Okay.
So that is this Saturday, 7 p.m.
Well worth it. They
the-
are talented individuals.
at the Marquee Cultural Arts Center. And that brings us to 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Hayden, do you have that weather forecast pulled up? Yeah, it is really, really still hot all the way through next week, honestly. So
We're in the 80s next week. Now look, come on.
is 86 any better than 96? I don't know. It's hot and I don't know. We'll see. But yes, there are some 8s in there, Pete. So I love you looking at the glass half full as Pete Wilson does. But so yeah, a little bit cooler. Sunday, Monday, they are calling for maybe some thunderstorms to come through. And if they do, they're saying that it's possible that those beginning of your work week temperatures might go down just a little bit. So it just depends kind of on what the storms decide to do. But Friday, today's probably going to be the hottest day of the year. It's going to be very, very humid, so be careful. Tomorrow, about the same, and hopefully cooler on Sunday. So just be very, very careful. Turn on the sprinklers, turn on the hose, keep all your lights off. I don't know. Do something to stay cool.
Right.
Check on your pets, your friends, your neighbors.
Absolutely.
Yep, all of that. So, all right, well, have a great weekend.
We will.
Pete in his purple shirt. Hey, are my people called your people? We're
Okay.
both purple today.
Well, I tell you, we're organized here.
we are. We know what we're doing.
All right, we have all those production memos that come our way.
That's right.
Sometimes we read them and sometimes we don't.
Sometimes we don't. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and we'll be right back here on Monday.
This just in.
The Telegram News has a new website.
thetelegramnews.com.
Same dedicated coverage.
Same trustworthy news with a brand new look.
Covering Jackson and Benton counties and surrounding areas.
Locally owned and operated, thetelegramnews.com has its finger on the pulse of the community.
Stay up to date on local events, high school sports, and breaking news.
thetelegramnews.com.
Subscribe today at thetelegramnews.com.
Check it out.